welcome to Peace of No Mind. My name is Raymond Tanner, and this is the podcast where I'll be interviewing amazing individuals as I find out what a peace of mind means to them and some of the valuable lessons they've learned throughout their journey. Each episode's been recorded at a different stage throughout lockdown, pandemic, just overall COVID living. If you like this podcast, make sure to hit me up, subscribe, send it to a colleague, send it to a friend, just send it on. And follow me on socials at Peace of No Mind Show on Instagram and Peace of No Mind on Twitter. Anywho, it's been a minute.
Peace and all mine. Peace and all mine. Yeah, and all mine. Peace and all mine.
Jeez, so I'd like to introduce man like Doc Brown on, aka Ben Bailey Smith. We're talking rapper, comedian, actor, screenwriter, radio presenter, voiceover artist.
The way I see it is like, I'm a writer and performer, and without versatility in the modern world of entertainment, I think it's very easy to either disappear into irrelevance or to not earn enough money to live off of. Or to get bored. And I think all three of those things I've been at risk of. When I was a rapper, that was all I was doing. I was rapping and I was working part-time as a youth worker. I never really felt like I was making the impact that I felt I could make as a rapper. And then through a series of strange events, not really any plan of mine, I diversified into stand-up comedy and used all the skills that I had from rap to do it.
Yeah, but this is the actual thing. It's like all of these titles, it's not even like you're mediocre at all of these. It's like when you were in different like avenues, it was like, yo, you were like performing at a high caliber, bro. Like it weren't even like one of those where, oh yeah, I dabble in and I touch my toes in this one here. And it's like, no, bro, you were actually like reputable people respected it.
For me, it's definitely never been about being a jack of all trades. It's been about looking at things that I enjoy and thinking, you know what, I can add something to that, with what I do and how I approach things. So I've got into each one being really, really serious about, if not being the best, just being as professional and as acceptable and as entertaining as I feel I can be. And despite when you reel off the long list of things that I do respect my boundaries. I do actually stay in the lanes that I know I can stay in. I'm not gonna start trying to do opera singing. I'm not gonna try and do tap dancing. Do you know what I mean? I'm not. There's lots of elements of entertainment where I just think, no, I'm no good at that.
This isn't it. So musicals are no, but you never know. You could. So would you like turn down the role of a rap sort of film?
Well, I was one of the last two for Hamilton in the first round when it came to the UK. So I was very, very, very close to playing Hamilton, and actually I didn't get it because my singing wasn't strong enough. So the rapping and the acting was fine, but the singing wasn't strong enough. So they gave it to the other guy. I didn't have any Western experience, so I wasn't upset about it at all. And then actually the next day, I remember thinking, you know what, I might have dodged a bullet here, because you know me from what you said about the different things I do. You know that I get bored easily, and I don't think I could just say someone else's lines every day,
twice a day,
sometimes twice a day, for years. Do you know what I mean? I think I would actually get really depressed. I don't think I'd like it at all. So, at the time it was just like, I'm going to give this everything because this is the biggest show in the world. But actually, just because it's the biggest show in the world, it sounds really arrogant to say, but I'm not being arrogant. Just because it's the biggest thing in the world, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're right for it. We all want these massive things, but we don't actually think about what they mean. Is it something that I will enjoy doing? Because I think one of the most beautiful parts of being an artist is being able to enjoy your work, to get to a stage in your life where you don't work to live, you live to work, right? And that's the dream. And I think I've always got to be careful and look at what I really enjoy doing,
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think sometimes the vision that you have for yourself isn't always the best vision for you as well. It can
Exactly.
block off
Yeah.
opportunities and other like mad blessings that you wouldn't have even
Mm-hmm.
been able to see as an opportunity because you were so tunnel visioned and focused on this one
100%.
goal. But you know what? Before we kind of digress too much, bro, like welcome to Peace and No Mind, my guy,
Thank
bro.
you.
Like, I know this is like definitely one of your to do lists in life. You got it now. That is like done. Forget Hamilton, bro. You're on Peace and No Mind, bro. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. But like, how have you just kind of been over these last few weeks? How's life been treating you, man?
Obviously, it's been surreal. It's been surreal for everybody, and the early stages were actually quite scary from a professional and personal point of view because, I lost a lot of work overnight. I lost a lot of money overnight, and I just bought a house, so I was like really, really panicky about personal and professional stuff. But then after a couple of weeks, and you start to see the seriousness of the situation, and speaking to friends who had way less than me that were made redundant, do you know what I mean? That had to move out of their house. It's like I looked at my situation. And I thought, dude, it could be a lot worse, And funnily enough, at that point where I started to get it in perspective a little bit more, I started getting more work. Like stuff started coming in. There was a lot of voice work around. I've been writing my novel and a movie for Film 4, so I've had a lot of writing to do as well. And it's worked out really, really nicely for me. And now I'm almost scared of lockdown ending because I've quite like the life that I've sort of worked out for myself. I just sit in my new house,
Yeah.
writing and recording, and it's nice. I've even recorded some new songs.
This
So
is,
it's like
bro, yeah,
a good
exactly, and
period.
that's definitely something I wanted to kind of tap into a little bit later on. But it's like you said, even this whole period, I think it was people were looking at it from, and I say people, everyone's situation was different. I can't speak for anyone, but when you're kind of observing it from a place of lack, like, damn, I've lost A, B, C, man, I've lost this. It like kind of is hard to see how there could be opportunity that could develop. And as soon as I kind of worked out how to adapt, and there were a few things that were popping up, and you realize that some people are really thriving in this period, some
Yeah.
companies, and it's
Oh
not
yeah, yeah.
not everyone's like at an odd or at a loss, really.
So what that tells you is two things. Number one, human beings are at the top of the food chain for a reason. We're the most adaptable animal on the planet. We just find a way to work stuff out, even in really, really desperate situations, life and death situations, in a way that other animals just can't. And that's what makes us amazing, but it's also kind of what makes us evil. Do you know what I mean? So there'll be some people who would be like, they would have seen the news
They're like,
and gone,
yes.
oh my God, look, all these old people are dying.
Yes.
Brilliant, brilliant. Like, what can I do? Oh, I know, you know what? I'm going to get my coffin business like rocking, and my face mask business is going to start
It's
popping
popping
off.
off.
A lot of people look at it like that, and the rest of us, we just we use our intelligence to work out how to survive.
Yeah. No, but I'm glad to hear that it's things are piecing together, and definitely we can work out some of the stuff that you probably are working on now. But as I ask all the guests who come on Peace and No Mind, because you're on Peace and No Mind, my bro, you're on Peace and No Mind. I ask all the guests who come on, what does a peace of mind mean to you, and how is it best achieved?
Oh yes, I mean it's a great question. For me, life is a constant kind of search for serenity, So when I think of peace of mind, I think of that word, and it's not something that you can have 24 hours a day because life is stressful and it's challenging. And as humans, we're impatient and we're changeable in our mood, but serenity, that moment of calm where things become clear, that moment of sobriety, and you can start to actually assess your own feelings rather than avoid them, because that's what we do a lot of the time. We just avoid how we really feel. We just pack our lives with stuff, with work and with relationships and with money and with food and drugs and alcohol, whatever it might be. We're constantly filling our lives with stuff, partly because we don't really want to assess our feelings and ask ourselves the big questions about our lives and how we really feel and react and respond to stuff. So serenity really helps us do that. And when I think of peace of mind, serenity is the word that comes to mind. Um, peace of no mind is a concept that you'll have to explain to me. I'm interested by the name of your
And
podcast.
yeah, no, that's definitely it's the idea, and I think you've kind of woven it together with the term serenity, and that to actually have a peace of mind is somewhat unachievable, because for the mind to truly be at peace, it needs to be in a state of no mind. But that doesn't mean that that is the way for everyone. And I think what
Of
makes it
course,
really interesting is that same question you can ask so many different types of people, and it almost seeing where they kind of hone and where they focus that light shows what they value about life.
hmm
So it's really interesting, because some people might look at it as an external thing, some people look at it internally, some people look at it as like a close unit, community based, like family orientated. Some
sure.
people look at it as an achievement based thing. So I think it's really interesting when you kind of position that, because I even think that response changes at different stages of your
Yeah,
life.
100% it does. And I think as just when you were speaking there, I was thinking about the concept of aging, because when I was younger, I definitely would have looked to externals to bring me serenity without even really understanding why. To me, contentment was achieving all the things that I felt needed to be achieved to attain that kind of nirvana. And as I've got older, I've realized that none of it's true. So when I was younger, I thought, oh, if I get this job, or if I become famous, or if I make this money, or if I get this house, if I marry this woman, if I do this, if I do that, then I'll achieve this, never-ending state of happiness. I've achieved all of those things,
That's
and
what.
and at times I've never been more discontent. So as you get older, you start to realize, oh shit, okay, it's actually, as cheesy as it sounds, it is about the journey. It's about finding contentment. Like when contentment's around, you jump on it and enjoy that moment of peace, and know that it will pass. Tomorrow, it could be a really shit day for you, man. Or even more importantly, it could be a really shit day for someone else. And if you can start to build your empathy, not just for yourself, but other people, and the natural world, which is growing and changing all the time, no matter what you do, you start to realize, oh, I'm not the star of this massive movie about me. I'm just another person on this globe, and I'm significant, but I'm not massively significant. So it's a case of, you start to understand, like, there's nothing I can do to change the world. All I can do is change how I am in the world. This idea that you can change everything is kind of it's part of the problem of the ego, thinking how amazing you are. It's actually, it's little things that you could do that can have a big impact on yourself and the people around you. And then it's like a trickle down. If you're good, if you're a good person to 10 people, they might be inspired to be a good person to 10 people each, and then it spreads like that. you know um so yeah, for me, I found the secret is, all right, you know what, I feel good today, so I'm not gonna worry about what's gonna go wrong tomorrow, or um am I going to feel this good for the rest of the week, or I'm just going to enjoy this now, and then tomorrow we'll start all over again and hope for the best again.
Yeah. So it's actually like there's a lot of focus on actually being and living in that present moment.
Yeah, 100%. I spent a lot of time looking back, and I spent even more time looking forward, and very, very little time going, actually, maybe now is fine. Now is fine. So why not enjoy now?
There was a video that I watched that was like you in Northwest, so it was like Doc Brown in Northwest,
Okay.
and then what, can't you remember doing it? He's like, okay, did I record this?
Oh, mate,
Or it
I've
was
done
with
so
uni.
many things. Right?
So it was with like uni lads, and you were talking.
Okay, yeah,
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 I
yeah.
remember. Yeah.
You were talking about being at a concert, or people being at a concert, and the idea that people are recording something, but they're not actually there and visually actually in the moment of seeing
Mm,
their favorite artist. It's like they're
mm,
recording it through an actual phone, when in reality they're losing out on the biggest picture, which is in HD, and it's a different sort of imprint in their memory. So that
mm.
kind of like ties back into some of the stuff you were just saying, along the lines of being in those moments where we're kind of always looking forward or back to either preserve that memory, but it's
Hmm.
like, yo, were you even in that memory? Like,
Yeah, it's like they say online, if it isn't on the gram, then
it
did it
doesn't
really
even
happen?
exist. Yeah, yeah.
You know, and that's often said with irony, but I think deep down, a lot of people believe that, man. You know, they a lot of people believe like, oh well, I mean, I've just had this amazing day, but if I don't share it with all these strangers,
Yes.
it's not going to feel as cool, and I'm not going to feel as validated. And you know, we're desperate to let people know that our lives have exciting things going on in them. You know.
And that we're functioning. We're not losing. We're doing as well as anyone else, or if not better.
Yes, and that humble brag is always apparent. You always see it in everybody's posts. You know.
But bro, Doc, so obviously, bro, you're from Northwest,
Mm.
Kilburn.
Yeah, so for I guess for the listeners that are not from London, it's an area in the northwest part of the city. So, you know, if you're not from London, you would have heard of Camden. It's not a million miles away from there. But yeah, I grew up initially in Kilburn on Willesden Lane, near the old cinema, the Odeon, and the cemetery, Paddington Cemetery, and then moved further up to Willesden, just off Willesden High Road. And I was there till I was about 20, and I moved out. Moved to Hackney, and I've been in Hackney ever since until I just bought this house. So back in Northwest, so I'm back where I started.
Whereabouts, without giving too much like detail, like what door number, bro? What street name? Let us know. Let us come.
It's a
Um,
nicer street than my old street. I'll put it like that.
and there were like even moments like again when I was watching this Unilad video, like you were saying some iconic things about the area. So you see a lot of characters growing up on the high street,
Mm,
and like I've tried to explain it to people before who aren't from Kilburn, that it's something you have to live and be here to understand the amount of influences and the amount of individuals who are. You highlighted one particular character, Mad Mary.
of course,
Um,
everybody knows.
and that's a generational thing. Like it's like you
Yeah.
knew Mad Mary, but she wasn't alone. There was like
No.
that's what I
The thing about Kilburn High Road is there's a lot of mad people, but they're not mad how like you might think. Like if you said to me, oh yeah, it's the same in Hackney, or it's the same in East, or it's the same in South. I say "Yeah, it's maybe, but when I say mad, I'm not talking about these guys who are gonna like pull a knife on you or like commit some heinous crime. I'm saying like there's an eccentricity to people. If you walk the full length of the high road, you'll see at least 4 or 5 people just talking to themselves.
the actual individuals, like one in particular who just crossed my life in the last few weeks was at the peak of pandemic. There's this lady who wears a Rice Krispie box on her head, and
Hmm.
cuts out the eyes, and she obviously thought that was a good enough substitute for a mask. So literally, she's rolling on the high street, like people are recording her. And I'm just like, this is a Kilburn moment, like, but you have to live here to know that that is just so natural. And the
Mm.
only reason why I kind of say that to say this is because obviously you've grown up in Kilburn Northwest, and like there was a lot of stuff around the time, like in terms of like people who were like rapping and doing their thing. And would you say that was what was your introduction into like,
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely. Like there was more of a street culture then. So you would see rappers, like battling or having little ciphers and stuff. You'd see that around, especially in Harlesden, Willesden, Kilburn, um, and obviously that's changed now because a lot of rappers just sort of become rappers in their bedrooms with everything they've got. Everything they need is right there on their computer. But before it was all about like that sort of street community, I guess, like people going, "Are you into this? Are you into that?" Because there was no other way of finding out. And I think definitely that was a huge influence. And it it's kind of weird now because when I look at all the superstars of British rap, it's very hard to find any from northwest of London.
when did you actually start your proper like ascent into rapping?
I was always interested in it, and
Mm.
I was always into indie music as well. So I was like had a little band playing covers for a bit when I was about 15, but I was always writing rhymes as well, and I just didn't really have the confidence to perform them to anyone. So I just write them down and sometimes memorize them. Sometimes I would like record them onto cassette, just in my bedroom. Um, but yeah, that was about as serious as it got until I started going to battles.
Mm.
So when I was about 18, I guess, going to things like Mudlums. They used to have a battle in Camden, the old Dingwalls. I think it's called the
Yeah.
Highlight now. Um,
What's this about you losing a battle to Sway, bro? Like,
yeah, I lost to Sway. I lost to some good rappers. But yeah, he was phenomenal, man, and he was a great freestyler. Like he could make stuff up on the spot just brilliantly. He was very very clever. Well, I say was, like he's dead. He's still incredibly clever, man. He's still an amazing rapper and really hyper intelligent. Really slick, really fast mind. And so that was obviously pretty intimidating when I came up against him. I'd seen him at another battle before that. He actually featured a bit of this on one of his old mixtapes, where he says to the other rapper, I'll kidnap your whole family and hold them for ransom. Then he goes, "Bitch, you're so ugly, you're handsome." Rapping against a female rapper. I was like, that's hilarious. He was that kind of dude, you know.
but these were like live battle raps, and like obviously
Yeah,
it was
and in those days it had to be actual freestyle as well. You had to
okay,
make
you
it up.
couldn't come with any pre-written.
Yeah, if they felt it was pre-written, you'd just get disqualified, which seems so strange now, doesn't it? Because you watch a battle now, you expect it to be pre-written, and in a lot of ways, that's what makes it better, I think, because these guys have had time to go away and come up with genius bars for the other guy, and I think it's more entertaining. Like when we were doing it, it was maybe scarier. There was a bit more of a thrill, but it wasn't necessarily always high quality because
You're
you know
off the top of the dome.
freestyling. Yeah, freestyling is really hard.
These times when you're going to battle rap, was that kind of where you were like, this is what the future's gonna look
I
like?
always thought that eventually I would put a record out and that record would, you know, make enough noise that I might be able to broker like a major record deal and live life as an artist. That was the plan. I even when I started battling, I was aware of other battle rappers getting pigeonholed as battle rappers, with people who were amazing but couldn't make songs. So I was always thinking about making songs, making albums, doing proper shows, and getting out there. That was the focus at that time. But it was so hard, man. I mean, those days, you know, it was more that there was no industry. You know, if you think like when I started, like I was still on the battle scene, like 03, 04, and I was just starting to make my first songs. And I think 04 I put out my first mixtape, Citizen Smith it was called. And and at that time we had like maybe you could count the stars on one hand, I say. Like So Solid, Dizzy, Roots Maneuver. We only had a handful of stars. The industry still didn't really believe that people rapping in a British accent could ever really be a thing, like a major thing. Do you know what I mean? So the real issue was less about competition and less about self belief. It was more about, do I believe that
The industry would
it's even
change.
possible for it to be something that I can make a living off of? To like maybe feed children off one day, buy a house one day. Do you know what I mean? Do I really believe that? And I think deep down, a lot of us didn't believe that, you know, which was why grime was such a breath of fresh air, because those lot came in and just went, we don't care.
Yeah,
We don't care whether you think there's an industry or not. We are the industry. Like we're gonna be the industry.
because one very big track is Mad World remix featuring Low Key. Like, how old is that? We're talking,
That's 04. So
yeah,
that's
oh
16
four.
years old.
Like, and still, if you flip that today, bro, there's some resonance in that, like that is so relevant to kind of a lot of people's mentality and the times we're living in as well. You just bumped into Low Key at 16 and were like, yo, like this is what's gonna happen.
I put him on his first ever record. That was the first ever thing,
Man,
he ever recorded. He was 16,
yeah,
and you know, I just thought, what a precocious teenager this guy. I mean, this guy, like, he was just a firebrand. Like, you looked in his eyes, and he had this determination, and you know, he became a political rapper really quickly. Actually, you know, immediately sort of a socially conscious rapper, but he just was so fiercely intelligent and such a big reader, and he'd come off the back of his own personal trauma, and it just made him so super focused on the concept of justice. And I mean, the rest is history. He's never left it alone. You know?
Was this around the time that you were hosting? Because from battle rapping, you started to host as well, right?
Yeah, and if you look at my career, it's not, none of it's a coincidence in that respect, you know, because like I was talking about at the start of this, when we talk about transferable skills, on the battle scene, I became known as the guy who was like, it could be quite funny spontaneously, you know. And I was always into sort of killing the tension, because a lot of those nights were really aggressive. And so in those days, like, kids don't know, man. Kids talk about, oh, it's like, in my ends it's violent, in my ends it's like that. Bro, in the old days, rap was, it was what it said on the tin. It was violent. Like a lot of jams ended in fights or stabbings, or, do you know what I mean? I'm not saying that because I'm proud of it. I'm horrified by it, but that's just the way it was. It was rough. So for me, I always worked hard to sort of diffuse tension and have a laugh and just smile, you know. So I quite enjoyed being in battles and taking the piss out of myself, as well as the people I was battling against. And it sort of made a name for me as that guy, like, oh, you should get Doc to host it, because he's quite funny and he'll just keep everything calm, you know. So I started hosting a lot of rap nights and hosting other battles and stuff like that. And that just led into hosting events at my friend's shop in Carnaby Street, which was one of the only black-owned businesses within our small industry.
How did that period where you kind of flipped a little bit into more of the comedy scene kind of come about?
Well, that was completely unexpected. That was
nothing to do with the like.
No, that was not part of the plan at all. So in 2005, through the shop, I met Mark Ronson, and we sort of hit it off, and I ended up touring with him. And having that taste of, you know, I mean, some of the stages we played, like at festival, was like 50,000 people. Do you know what I mean?
It was like Amy, weren't you performing?
Yeah, Amy Winehouse.
Amy White, bro. You had like, there was some big people you were working with.
It was legendary. Yeah. So getting that little taste of that world, I think, had a huge kind of profound effect on me and my desire. And when I came off working with Ronson in 07, I remember really thinking, I don't know if I want to go back to, not even just youth work, but like rap as well. It's just a bit like, it's just not going anywhere. Do you know what I mean? And I was definitely thinking about just hanging the mic up and like getting a proper job, like a proper job with decent money. So I started making a sort of farewell album, which I did complete, but I never released it. And the reason for that was my whole life changed over the period of a month or so. January 2008, I finished the album, made my decision not to rap again. But I also I got this call from a dude that I knew from Radio 1, through music again. And he'd started working in comedy. He'd started writing comedies for the BBC, and he'd written this new show for Lenny Henry. And he was like, I wonder if you could give me a hand with like some of the voices of the younger characters. He was like, the language here, is that what they would say? Is that a street term? And I was like, all right, bro, cool. Like, I'll help out as much as I can, but it's not really my area of expertise. And he was like, yeah, but you can do it because you understand words and you're from that culture and blah, blah, blah. So I helped him out. They paid me £200 to like be a sort of script consultant on this Lenny Henry thing. And then they just ended up hiring me as a consultant for the whole series. And Lenny Henry started giving me these little walk-on roles, like little lines here and there, because I could do like different voices and stuff. And all of a sudden I was like working in comedy, like, but it wasn't a plan, you know, and it wasn't full time or anything like that. I just did it when they needed me. But knowing my background, the producers were always saying, you should do stand up, you should do stand up. And I was like, yeah, but like, man's not a joke out here, you know what I'm saying? Like, not a clown. And they convinced me to come down to this night in Great Portland Street and just give it a bash. And I did, and I was no good. I didn't prepare anything. I just went up there and improvised because I just treated it like a battle. And the producer dude who invited me was like, "Yeah, it's cool, but you need some jokes, man." He was like, "Come back next month to the same night and actually like write some jokes." So I did that. I came back. This was February 2008, and I wrote some jokes about working with Lenny Henry and being a rapper working for the BBC. Blah blah blah. It didn't really. No one really laughed. And then, I had like 8 minutes or something on stage, and I was getting to the end, and I thought, well, I can't leave with no reaction. So I just did this thing that rappers used to do back in the day when I was a kid, where they do these freestyle games, where they ask you like, what's in your pocket, or what's your name, where are you from, rah, rah, and they get it all together and do like a freestyle incorporating all those words. So I just did that, which is pretty corny. That's like a corny thing to do in rap. But at this comedy thing,
They went off.
They looked at me like it was the second coming of Christ. You know what I'm saying? Like, people freaked out, and the guys that ran the venue were like, "Oh, you should come and do that improv rap thing. We've got a comedy night here on Fridays. It's like rowdy, it's proper. You should come down. We'll pay you 50 quid." And I was like, "Cool." Did that. Another guy came up to me, gave me his card. And he turned out to be, a very influential, very, very high profile artist manager who I'm still working with today, 12 years later.
Oh, man. Wow.
And I went home that night. Yeah, it was crazy. I went home that night and I thought, there's something in this. And I just Googled comedy competitions because I thought they must have battles like they have in rap. And sure enough, they did. They had these comedy competitions across the UK, and I just looked for the biggest one. It was called So You Think You're Funny, and the prize was $5,000, a nationwide and international talent search thing. And then they give you a date and you go and perform in the first round, and most people just go out in the first or the second round. But I got all the way to the final. It was at the Edinburgh International Festival.
Jeez.
In August of that year. And then it was a wrap, because the final is everyone in the audience is industry. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everyone, like, from all over the world. So, after that, I started getting bookings. By the middle of 2009, I was already making a healthy living out of stand-up comedy. And it normally takes people, 4 or 5 years before, they're fully independent and they're making a living wage, that you can live off or feed your family off.
What do you think it was that kind of, do you think they hadn't heard and there wasn't anyone else that they could
that's what it was. People say, "Oh, you look like you were amazing from the start." No, I wasn't, man. I was a proper amateur. I was not amazing. But what I definitely was from the start was different. There was nobody doing what I was doing. And it just made me stand out. And because it had this rap element as well, it was, it had a showy side to it. So I started getting booked as a headliner quite early on. Normally, you wouldn't get booked as a headliner on a comedy gig of different comedians if you were that new. So I started making money really quickly, and I know that other comics were jealous of me and whatnot. Being from rap, I really didn't give a fuck. Like, I was just like, I'm gonna boss this game, and that's what I did. I spent the next sort of 7, 8, 9 years just killing that game, basically, to the point where by the time I quit, I was, I played Wembley, I played the Ericsson Globe in Stockholm. It was like 12,000 people. I was making money hand over foot, but it just, after a while, it just got to me, man. That lifestyle, just living out a suitcase, being on your own all the time, I don't really enjoy it.
Yeah, I definitely remember one moment, like, and I think I was at uni at the time, and it was the My Property rap, and it went viral, bro. Like, that one, like, where obviously you're on Russell Howard's Good News, and I remember that moment, like, seeing it on Facebook, just going around, just that little clip, and it's like, have you heard of Doc Brown? You heard of Doc Brown? And, like, for a lot of people, that would have been the first introduction
definitely,
to who Doc Brown was.
And those conversations always made me laugh when I'd overhear him, because, if you had a group of 10 people, all going, oh, you've seen Doc Brown? Oh yeah, Doc Brown, the tea thing is so funny. Oh yeah, Doc Brown, Doc Brown. There'd always be one person in 10 who goes,
No.
yeah, but that's not the same Doc. There was a Doc Brown before that who was a sick rapper, bruv. This Brez just like taking his name or something.
Exactly, innit?
I loved hearing those conversations. So, there's a handful of people, and it is just a handful in this country who've just followed me from the start and stuck with me, and that's just a beautiful thing. Those people who are just like, okay, cool, he's doing comedy now, I'll check that out. Boom. All right, he's doing some acting now. Boom. He's writing a book. I'll read that. They're just with me,
Okay.
And then the rest, like, they come and go, or they only like one thing I do, and it's absolutely fine. I do it for the love of doing it, and if people enjoy it as well, that's great. But I've never been that guy who's like, oh, how come you don't like me doing comedy? You like me doing rap? Do you know what I mean? Yes, I'm acting in a serious drama now. You should respect it. You should come with me for the rap. I don't, bruv. It's like people have different things that they're into, innit? So for me, it's like I really love those few people who stick with me no matter what I do. But I'm just so surprised always when there's people interested in stuff that I've just made up. I everything I create, I hope that everyone will love it. But most of the time, I think, I just hope this isn't shit. You know?
But then even then, like, you're bringing people who wouldn't necessarily listen or be involved in one kind of aspect into a new realm by following you as well. So it's like giving them, like, almost opening their horizon or expanding their horizons. Someone who might not listen to any of your rap albums, who's just been into your comedy, now follows you and you listen to some of your albums, and it's kind of just that vice versa, like that flip can expand, and that's mad.
The idea of tea, it was a very cynical decision. I knew that was one thing that would cross any racial barrier, any class barrier. Do you know, the mad thing is I don't even drink tea, bro. I couldn't give a shit. I don't give a fuck how you have your tea. You know what I mean? I drink grapefruit juice in the morning. Like,
nah, bro,
it's like whatever.
Tea lover, that's jokes.
Ah, man, what I am is a writer. I'm a creator. Like, I have an imagination, and I put my imagination.
I don't even like tea. That's hilarious. Nah, bro, that's jokes.
People are like, well, I have my tea like this, bro. I'm like, cool, bro. Like, whatever you want to do, bro. I'm just making this money, bro. Like, you enjoy your tea.
Oh, bro. No, bro. So, like, obviously, at the peak of all of these, like, all the gigs in a comedy show, you were saying that the whole lifestyle started to become a bit like.
Let's take it back to the title of this show and tie it in properly, because my decision to leave comedy was a purely a mental health decision. It wasn't based on where I thought my career was going, or I thought maybe it's going downhill, or it's going too fast, or I wanted to do this differently or that differently. I just started to feel that lifestyle was having a detrimental effect on my well-being, and there was no money that was worth damaging it any further. I think the isolation just started to kill me, man. Like, if you think about stand-up, to create it, right, you have to be on your own. You need to be on your own somewhere quiet so you can write it down. And then to test it out, you have to go somewhere on your own and stand up in front of a small group of people on your own and say these words on your own, with only your voice. And then, you go home and you refine it, and then you go out to a proper gig. So you might have to travel 300 miles, or you might even have to get on a plane on your own. And then you're in the hotel room on your own. Then you're in the green room backstage on your own. Then you get out on stage, and everyone claps. Then it goes quiet and it's silent, and you're on your own telling these jokes. And then even if you kill it, it's the funniest thing anyone's seen all year. The crowd go wild. When you step off that stage, unless you're one of these idiots that goes and tries to fuck the groupies or get some man love from, stand at the bar getting everyone to like pat you on the back, which is just not my style, you're going back to the hotel on your ones, right? So who are you celebrating with? Like, what am I going to do? Like, I'm going to phone my friends. They just got back. Yeah, do you mean they just got back from their fucking job? They got to go to work again early in the morning, and you're calling at midnight going, bruv, I just killed it. Like, they don't want to hear that. And then similarly, if you die up there and do terrible, you're still going back to the hotel room on your ones,
Yeah. And
just
you're
sitting there going,
thinking
fuck.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you think like I could call my wife, but then it's like, oh, I don't want to unload on her. Like, oh, poor me, I just died on stage. Also, I made £5,000 while I was doing it. Like, do you know what I mean? No one don't want to hear that either. So it becomes this very lonely lifestyle, and I think some people are suited to it, and some people aren't. Like, there's a lot of comedians. Some of them have families. They actually like getting away from their family to go and do the work. Me, I quite like being at home, man, and I miss my friends as well. And it's not like, see, when I got in the game, I was already in my late 20s. Do you know what I'm saying? So most of the comics I was coming up with in the competitions and that, like, they're household names now, but they were like 20. Do you know what I mean? Or even like 18 or 19 getting in the game. So for them, the whole thing's a party, right? Even 5, 6 years later, you're like 25. What? Like, you just get your mates, you roll on tour. None of you have got a serious job back home or whatever. You're making your pee. You're having a laugh. You can treat it like as a band on tour.
Mm.
But for me now, going into my 30s, I got 2 kids. My friends have got kids. They got responsibilities and shit. I can't be like snatching up like 10 guys and going on the road like it's a party. And the problem was my specific job at that time was to be alone. And I didn't like it. And then the lifestyle becomes unhealthy because you don't need to cook, do you? There's no one to cook for, so you just get fast food. Do you know what I mean? And then you get bored, bruv, because like if you're on tour, you wake up in the hotel room on your J's at like 9, and then you're not back in the venue until 9. So you got like 12 hours
to kill,
and
walk
some
around the
dead,
city
yeah,
centre,
some
yeah.
dead. Even if you're somewhere amazing,
yeah,
bruv. I've been
still.
in some amazing cities in the world.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? In Australia, in Asia, in Africa. Like, this job took me around the planet. But it doesn't matter, bruv. Because Tokyo with your friends is sick.
Yeah.
On your
Tokyo with
ones, it's just like,
yes.
what are you going to do? Just spend all day on Instagram showing off, like, oh, look, I'm in Tokyo. Like,
Let's be honest now, innit?
it's
Like,
actually dead. So,
yeah.
what I found is like, yeah, just eat more fast food, and then you're so bored. I just like have a drink, and just then I'm just like boozing. Do you know what I mean? Like on my own, and it's like, yeah, man, this life is not the one. So I started really at the time. I was already doing a bit more acting here and there, mainly comedy stuff. Started to do a few dramas, and then as that became more regular, even though it was a huge, huge pay cut, I just thought, you know what? I need to do a 9 to 5 for a while. And acting is much more like that. It's like a 9 to 5 with a lot of people. You're working with a whole team. So it's much more sociable. Come home, sleep in your own bed. I was just like, you know what? This works so much better for me.
Like looking back over that period, what's like one thing you know about like navigating the world?
I'd say trying to constantly remind yourself of who you are is probably the biggest learning curve, because it's like it's so easy to start thinking you're something else, or you're someone else because of how well you're doing or how validated you feel by your success as an entertainer, specifically as a performer. Because if you're a performer, a live performer, people love you and they show it, right? Like if I'm in a drama, I don't really know if people are loving it or not. Like maybe someone will put a comment online or something, but I could do 5, 6, 7 TV shows without really knowing if people like it or not. Whereas with stand up, straight away there's 1,000 people there just screaming for you. They're loving it, and they just can't stop. So that's an amazing feeling, but it's also very dangerous because you start to think, hey, maybe I'm the man. Maybe I am that guy. I'm a bit more special than these normal people. You know, and everybody feels it to some extent at some point. You can't come off stage and not feel a little bit special, um, and that's fine. But it's when it starts to feed into everything else you do, and you start thinking, hey, I can't deal with that stuff. I'm a bit too important for that. Like your life is more like normal. Mine's like abnormal. I'm strange. I'm different. I'm unique. It's a very dangerous game to start playing, and you don't realize you're doing it sometimes. Because when you crash and burn, you realize, fuck, like there's nothing special about you. Every single person has hopes and fears and difficulties in their past and trying to be the best person they can be. Everybody's the same, man. They're just at slightly different places in their lives at any one time. So it's a case of humbling yourself and reminding yourself who you are, like who you really are, and giving yourself the time to really appreciate those feelings, which is very hard to do when your career is on a sort of roller coaster or on a fast track, you know. So I'd say that's probably the one big thing I've learned throughout everything.
Mad. And obviously, even in the like after the kind of peak of comedy, you've gone on to like act in like so many numerous shows. Like from we're talking like In Betweeners, like Derek, Law and Order, Midsummer Murder, Fleabag. But then you've also written and produced some shows for CBBC and stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I've always, like I said at the start, I'm a writer and a performer. So, I've always been very conscious of intellectual property, and a lot of that was inspired by Ricky Gervais. He was always saying to me, own stuff, write your own stuff and own it. It's the best way to have longevity, to make your money, and to be taken seriously. So, from the start, I was always trying to get my own ideas off the ground, and the 4 o'clock club for CBBC was one of my proudest achievements because, I mean, 10 years later, it's still going, and to come up with a concept for television that is that popular and has stayed that popular for me,
that's
it
crazy.
means so much, man. Like I bump into 20-year-old men and women,
You were like, I grew up with
grown
you.
men and women who are like, I grew up on your shit. Like I grew up with this. Like this changed my life. Like this was my Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, or this was, do you know what I mean? And I'm just like, that was the plan, to have a show with black heroes that was just, it wasn't about race, but it celebrated blackness in Britain, in a fun way for all the family, and it wouldn't be corny. Like it'd be cool. It'd be something if you were 10 or 11 or 12. It would actually be a cool thing that you could watch on children's TV.
But you don't want a BAFTA from that, right?
Yeah, that was. I guess in a way it was kind of connected because, um, yeah, we won a BAFTA, and then I became quite friendly with BAFTA. So then I ended up hosting the BAFTAs here in the UK 4 times in a row before they
Mad.
retired me. Yeah,
That's
and
crazy.
during that period, BAFTA sent me out to do to host the Britannias, and that was, I'd say, looking back, if my career ended today, I'd say that was a moment I can just still tell my kids, my grandkids. Do you know what I mean? I'll always have that up on stage, like doing jokes to Samuel L. Jackson, Jennifer Lawrence, Tom Hanks. Do you know what I mean? Like Jodie Foster. It was next level. It was proper next level.
Mad. That it sounds like, bro, like if you even looking back from like the early days where you might have been hosting the events at the battle rap, and then like you said, hosting this award ceremony. Like life sometimes can take you in the maddest of journeys, man, and you can only look back and see where the dots had connected and stuff.
I think when you're young, I mean, I know I did this when I was a teenager. I used to always think, oh, imagine if I could just fast forward 20 years and just see, like,
Yes.
not even a whole day, just like
See what I'm doing.
5 seconds.
Yeah,
Like, where am I? Like, what am I doing?
yeah.
I used to always think about that. And I have to say, I always had dreams of being an entertainer or being an artist full time and stuff. But I think deep down, as people always say to me, oh, you must have amazing self belief. I do, but I think it's probably more developed as I've started doing work. Before I did the work, before I put the time in, I don't think I had that much belief that it would ever really happen for me, you know? And I think that's testament, if there is any message, to especially to young artists, you know what, just fuck all this stuff about your brand and how you want people to view you. Do the work first. Just get the work under your belt, even if no one's ever going to see it. Just do the work so that when your opportunity arises, you're ready and you've already got experience. You already know what you're doing. Because half of this game is confidence, man. Just pretending you know what you're doing. But if you actually know as well, oh my God, you can fly, you know.
What are you working on now, man? And because obviously, is there any new music coming? I know you dropped Stemma in 2017.
I'm really hoping I can get some more music out this year. Actually, I just featured on Examples album, and that was so nice to come out of retirement and do something proper. And it really sort of spurred me on. Like, you know, people send me beats sometimes, and I thought, you know, let me actually just listen to some of these beats and see if there's any it makes me want to do anything. More immediately, I'm like what I'm doing right now as we speak is finishing up my novel for Bloomsbury, which comes out in April next year. I think it's one of the best things I've ever done. Actually,
Oh, sick.
feel very confident about it. And then at some point, I think I probably will do a Michael Jordan and come back to comedy. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't know when that's going to be.
Win a few championships. Go on and smash it out. No, man, like the amount of gems and the insight that you've dropped, like to me, like there's definitely stuff I'm taking away 110, man. But
Cheers, man.
before you go, like there's three quick questions I want to ask
Okay.
you. Yeah? So you kind of answered one of them, but it might have changed. But happiest day of your life?
Happiest day of my life. Wow. I would say it was I was in France and we hired out me and my family hired out this villa and it was just there's no one anywhere near it. It's just this villa in the countryside and it had this little infinity pool outside and I've never been able to swim ever and it's always annoyed me because obviously now my kids they can swim,
And you're
my
there on the
wife can swim.
sideline, like,
Yeah, I just sit. That's what I've always done, just sit,
cheerleader. Yeah,
pretending I don't care. And my brother-in-law was like, I'll teach you how to swim in 30 seconds. And I was like, bro, everyone says that. And he goes, no, I'm telling you, I'll teach you how to swim in 30 seconds. He goes, just put this on. And he gave me one of those face masks that you use for snorkeling. And he goes, the biggest problem with non-swimmers is that they can't work out their breathing. If you don't have to worry about your breathing, you'll just float. And I was like, nah, I don't know about that. He goes, trust me, just try it. So I put on this mask over my nose. And he goes, close your mouth. Don't worry about breathing through your mouth. You're not going to stay underwater for too long. He goes, now just jump in. Just jump in. That's it. And like do whatever strokes. I'm not going to teach you how to do strokes. You can learn that from a proper teacher. I'm just going to show you how to float. And I went in there and I sort of splashed about. And I realized without having to take in or breathe out any breath, not working out, I was floating. And if you are like 35 before you float for the first time in water, it is a trippy experience. It was like going to outer space. And you know, after like 3 hours, all the kids are just bored of the pool. They want to go off and eat. I was just in the
They're
pool.
just
I
paddling
was
away.
just there. I was like, no, I've discovered something new.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just remember sitting in that infinity pool, having learned to swim for the first time in my life, and I was looking at the kids running around, the sun just beaming down, and I just thought, like, life is not bad. Like, life's not bad at all.
Definitely like worthy of the happiest day for real, man. What's something that overwhelms you?
I think the responsibility of parenting. I just like most of the time, 95% of the time, I enjoy it. You know, I had kids young, so most of my friends are having babies now, you know, and I look at that as not enjoyable at all. I just see these babies kind of like, nah, brother, I'm
Not
done.
today. I've
You
done
know,
my time.
but my kids are teenagers and like, I love the time with them. I love hanging out with them. But what overwhelms me is the next step. So I got two girls, so I'm just worried about them being attacked or like being discriminated against or all these things that I can't control, like them getting their heart broken. I can't control any of that. I've just got to, that sounds mad to say let it happen. I don't want to let them be attacked. Do you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, you can't be watching your kid 24/7 when they're like 21 years old. So you've got to let them go. And the idea of them being out in a world that is quite cold sometimes, you know, and them being saddened by it or hurt by it, I find that overwhelming. So I try not to think about that too much.
No, that's real. Oh man. And final question was best piece of advice you've been given by somebody else.
I had two. One was directly related to comedy, which was from Stephen K. Amos,
Big
older black comedian. I was very much starting out, and I was doing one of my first big shows. It was in Edinburgh, and it was like a showcase of all these big comedians, and they'd have one new one, and I was like the new young one, and I was so nervous, and I was only doing 5 minutes, and he could see I was nervous, and I said to him, any advice, and he goes, just enjoy it, and I was like, oh, fucking great. Whoa. Ask someone for some advice, they give you that, it's useless, you know. And I went out there and I didn't enjoy it because I was so nervous. And I just remember thinking, that's just the shittest advice ever. But then as I got deeper into comedy, I started realizing when I relax, when I'm properly relaxed, just fully confident in my own ability, I go up there and thinking, I know what I'm doing. And if it goes wrong, it goes wrong. That's fine. I'll be better tomorrow. It's no big deal. I'll go home. You know, my family will still love me. My friends will still love me. I'll still make my money, and tomorrow I'll go again. It's no big deal. And I'd go out there with that attitude, and I would enjoy it so much that it would make the shows better, and the audience would enjoy it more because they could see me enjoying it. And I thought, wow, Stephen was actually right. Just literally, there's no more words to be said. It's just enjoy it, and you could apply that to so many things in life. Like, and if you're not just enjoying it, then maybe there's a problem that needs addressing. So actually, it was deep advice. And then the other one was more in terms of work and your career as a whole, which came from my sister. She said, okay, never forget what the job is. If you've decided what your job is, then be the master of that job. And your job can change, that's fine. But while you're doing the job that you say you enjoy the most, be the master of that, you know? And then the other thing she told me was, never underestimate the power of no. And I was like, okay, expand on that. And she said, well, in this game, there's no set fee for you. Someone might offer you £100. Someone might offer you £100,000. And the £100 might be for something you really want to do. And the 100,000 might be for something you really don't want to do. But you're going to have to work out what it is you really, really want. And if you need to say no, don't be afraid to say no. So there were times when I would be offered £100 to do something I really wanted to do, but the money was derisory, so I would say no. Next thing you know, phone rings, they've trebled the money, they've quadrupled the money. Can you do it? Can you do it? They found some more budget somehow, you know, or with the 100,000 type deals, and it's something you really don't like. There's elements you don't like. Say no. Next thing you know, phone's ringing again. How can we change it, Doc, to make it like more like something you'd want to do? Do you know what I'm saying? Whereas I think the thing for young artists, it's in our instinct to just go, yeah. We don't want to turn down anything. We're like, oh my God, like they've asked me to do this thing for the BBC. Just say yes, just say yes, just say yes. But hold on a minute. What do they want from you for that? Yeah. So I think it was her way of saying, like, know your worth, you know? Know your worth.
And by the way, bro, I found out yesterday that your sister's Zadie Smith. Well, that's mad. The family lineage. What is up with that, bro? That's actually mad. Like,
so when you take that on board, who she is and what she's done, like you take that advice seriously. So, yeah.
Oh, bro, that is the realest of real, man. Honestly, that's some like timeless advice that now we've got. Wait, do you know what? I want to try one thing. Can you hear this? Can you hear that?
Sounds like rain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear that.
Do you want to drop a little something on it?
Oh my days. Jeez, put me on the spot. Let's see, what have I got? Jeez. That's nice. I wonder if I've got anything that will fit that. Okay, let's try it.
Shall I loop it?
No, yeah, go on.
Go on.
Alright. Oh, you thought that I wouldn't? Entertaining what you thought that I couldn't? Think again, yeah. Yeah. Think again. Alright. Let's try this. See if I can remember any of it. You thought that I wouldn't? Entertaining what you thought that I couldn't? Think again, and if you thought I went Hollywood, sure you're sorely mistaken. I'm purer than mineral water, pouring, slaughtering Satan. Hating cause I'm making dough, shaking up the status quo. You just imitate the flow, man of being blatant though. Change clothes, switch names. Kids say they're the god of this game. Big claims, you're in it for a minute, so take the money and run. I got my pee in comedy, spitting I do for fun. Verbal bullets are accurate. Run, bruv, run. Murder rappers by accident. Stun gun tongue, burn the haze, and get lost in my turn of phrase. My writing, burn the page, and the words earn a wage. You could learn for days what I figured in a single minute. Push a European whip with nothing but winners in it. I don't set myself limits and never celebrate what I achieve when I get it. I need more credit, but don't let it get to me. Give my children my legacy. No one really threatens me. I am where you'll never be. Cloud stepping, proud London town repping. Underground I was kept in. Now I'm out flexing. Claim platinum when the truth is that you wouldn't. Bar for bar, I guess the proof is in the pudding. Yeah. Show me the money like the Junior Cuba Gooden. Open nice and wide to get your mouth to fit your foot in. I quit the game and all the lames got a looking. I sat back, analysed everything I took in. Sky One, Netflix, TV. I don't need to do this, bruv. I just love the music, bruv. I just love the way the beat reacts when I abuse it, bruv. I just love the way that you assume that I could lose it, bruv. Born winner, raw spitter, you're bitter. I don't need Facebook, Insta or Twitter. Hashtag gangsters eat them for dinner. Come to my church, I need some more sinners.
Hey, come on. Hey, that is her. Hey, bro. Hey, big love, bro. That is exactly how I wanted to end that. Man, like, hey, Doc, all the absolute love, bro.
Safe,
honestly.
brother.